See. Good morning, Kaffeeklatsch. Hello. How's everyone doing? Let me just run a real quick test. Can you guys all hear me? Is everything good? Let me know. Make sure the mic is the way it needs to be. Yeah, that's good. Okay, mic is right up here, just out of the screen. Yeah, I figured it was time. We've been doing this for like what, 6 years. It's time to make give it a nice new bag. And this one's actually double-sided, so I could switch it up when I want to just have two different ones. Very Asian, very Japanese for sure. All right, so good morning, everyone. Good morning, Chris. Good morning, Connie. Good morning, Heather. Good morning, Marie. Hello, everyone. Hello, welcome. Good morning. We are here at the MoB Kaffeeklatsch, episode 161. Yeah, I can't believe this. It's like we're at this many episodes. I hope you're all doing well today. And today I went to walk the pooch and it was 53 degrees this morning. So it's kind of spring, but I don't know if it's actually spring is like dipping its toe and seeing if it wants to stay or not. So it's still a little chilly. I had to put on a jacket because 53 degrees, but it was nice. It was a nice kind of walk. I'll be doing another walk later after the Kaffeeklatsch, taking the pooch out for a longer walk. Yeah, 36 degrees is not spring. 36 degrees is still, I want to say 36 degrees is like winter still, or at least the tail end of winter. It's a good temperature to go out and just, take a walk, but it's still brisk and you still need to kind of wear some outer layer for 36 degrees. It's just a little chilly for sure. But, the dog likes it. So, I mean, at 56, 53, 56, the dog likes it. So it was good. And when he was a puppy, we couldn't take him far. We had to go like maybe a block or two, like half a block. And he would start trembling. It was like, yeah, got to bring him right back in real quick because he'll freeze out here because he doesn't have that much fur. He has like one coat. And he would start trembling halfway. Good morning, Laura. Welcome. Marie, below zero is way too cold. I'm done with temperatures that are frigid like that. Below zero is way too cold for me right now. I'm looking for 60, 70. That would be good. I don't think I could deal with below zero right now. I'm over winter and freezing temperatures. So much. It's just like let's get the summer started already at this point. But yeah, it's good. I'm good to be here. It's good to have you all here. Zero is weird. Is not for weird countries. It's just too cold. I'm really gonna have to start considering being somewhere warm as I get older, moving into somewhere that's like, I don't know, temperate, 75 on an average, maybe 80, something like that. Yeah, because the cold is just too cold. So the winters here, this last winter was pretty severe, but most winters here aren't that bad. But when it starts getting into the 20s, the teens, below zero, it's not fun anymore. The concept of winter is no longer fun when it gets that cold. Pass on that. But so I'm gonna see at some point where we can be somewhere that's nice and warm, somewhere temperate, which would be really, really good. 46 for Heather, hoodie weather, pollen. Yeah, the rain and Dolly. It's like the pollen has been really bad this year, so it's been really, really bad. I think it's because the winter was so long and got pushed, but it's now just kind of calming down. Yeah, but below zero, even Fahrenheit is bad for me, Marie. It's too much. I don't want to deal with that kind of cold any longer. I'm ready for like 65. I think it's the prolonged winter does that, Chris. It just makes it when it's winter so long, the pollen has, I guess, a chance to get really high by the time it's allergy season, which is, I don't really suffer from allergies like that unless I go down to where my sister is and near like Virginia and Florida down. Then I'll just get allergies. Sometimes my eyes get if I'm staring at the screen for a long time, and this is a tip for you authors, you got to, or anyone who's working with computers, and you got to take a break for your eyes and look away and take a moment, go out into the sun, and the sun is good for you. I'm not saying stare into the sun, but the sun is good for your eyes. And just go out there and just take a walk in the sun, wear a hat, wear some sunglasses if you're not too dark, but wear sunglasses. But the sunlight is good for you. Vitamin D is good for your skin, and the sunlight is good for your eyes, as long as you don't overdo it and like stare into the sun. But get away from the blue light of the screen every so often, because that can really mess with your circadian rhythm. So you guys know this by now. If you've been using computers for any amount of time, prolonged exposure to a screen is not good for you, especially for us who write. You got to take a break and step away. Yes, Bermuda. Does Bermuda get hit by hurricanes? Because if it doesn't, it's the Maldives. Because I don't want to be anywhere in Hurricane Alley. I have to worry every year about my house getting washed away or something, or the island just getting obliterated. So anywhere that hurricanes don't frequent often, I'm good. We can go there, we hang out there, and that's what and get away from all this cold for sure. I hear Spain is good. We can go to Spain. Spain is nice weather, or Hawaii is good. I don't think Hawaii really gets hit by hurricanes, but it has volcanoes. But I hear Spain is good, and Spain doesn't get hit by hurricanes. Everyone has to learn Spanish, and we'll be good there. But there's some really nice places in Spain, and we're close to Europe. So if we want to just pop over to France or England or Italy, we're like in the neighborhood. So that's really good. So Spain might be an idea, or at least somewhere in Europe. Italy is nice too. Here, Tuscany is beautiful. So we can do Tuscany, nice, and it's not too cold. We can do that too. So there you go. We have options, guys. The options, but it's time to start thinking about it. Yeah, polar vortexes do those. I think that's what we call what do we call bomb things? We call those bomb vortexes here. Paige, you made it. Welcome. I don't know. We call them something bomb vortexes or polar bombs or something, but they're not fun, and they kind of hover, and they bring the temperature down really low, and then you get frozen. Not good. Not fun. So yes, Marie, I totally understand that you're tired of the coldness for sure. Welcome, Paige. You did make it. A bomb cyclone. Thank you, Paige. That's exactly what it is. We don't want bomb cyclones. We don't want any kind of those. Kathy, welcome. Yeah, it's not. We're trying to stay away. This is the warm weather episode. We want warm weather. So everyone, at least me on my end here everyone here is ready for warmer weather. I'd like to have t-shirt weather. I can just wear a t-shirt and go out and be good and not have to worry about freezing and having to wear a jacket, And I have to go out because I have to take the pooch out. So it's not like it's not a negotiable. I have to take the pooch out, and he has to go out, and so I have to go out too. And he's not that well trained where I could just say go out and do your thing. And we don't have a yard. If we had a yard, maybe. Okay. All right, let me get started. A bunch of us here. We're all here. At least the initial group is here. Let's start with the shout out. So shout out to everyone on YouTube. If you're on YouTube, please don't forget to do a like and subscribe and share as much as you can. It does help our algorithm and the channel, and it helps it grow, and let other people know that we're doing this every 2 weeks. Omega, they said that we were trapped in an omega-shaped current formation. Yeah, I'll definitely have someone deal with that omega-shaped, because an omega shape is an interesting formation. So definitely, yeah. 60 in the deep south is cold, Paige. That's cold. All right, so a huge shout out to all of you that are here on YouTube. This is our Patreon. Well, let me jump to Patreon real quick because there's so many things happening on Patreon. First of all, if you're a patron, I want to say thank you, because I truly appreciate what you guys do and how you support the work and support me and support the writing. You guys, there are no words to express how awesome you are. And this is why your names are in the back of each book. And I know there've been some missteps, like I've picked up the wrong lists and then put them in the back of the book. And then some patrons like, hey, where's my name? So I'll try to make sure that we get the most current lists for the back of the book so you guys get recognized. And if we make a mistake, please let me know, because I can modify that really fast and then put the right list up there. As for Patreon, and I'll just touch upon that now. First of all, thank you to all the new patrons. There's so many new patrons. I can't go name by name anymore because it's just so many. We'd spend almost half the show just going down the list of patrons. It's that many. So, but I want to say, I'll give a huge shout out to all the patrons, and especially the new patrons, because you guys are helping those stories just come to life, and you're really supporting above and beyond. So thank you so much. I was going to touch on the Patreon story, but I guess I could touch on it a little bit. All right. So the most recent Patreon story was the Bloodlust, which was Simon, Deathless, and Gray. And things were happening in the dive. It was a lot of fun. It was a lot of fun to write. It was a lot of fun to read. The next Patreon story is going to be kind of, it's weird in the sense that it's kind of going to be like, what can Deathless do, basically? What are the extents of his abilities? And so for that, we have brought in Nan and it's called Tip of the Spear. And Deathless has to escort Nan on a diplomatic assignment, and he's acting as her bodyguard, and she's going to be the diplomat. And she's going to try and broker a peace between 3 factions, and you guys know what the factions are, right? Vampires, mages, and werewolves, or werefolk, just like in the Dark Council, but this is not the Dark Council. And it's basically, she's gonna be a diplomat. Nan is the diplomat, and Simon, Deathless, is the bodyguard to kind of keep things from getting out of control. But it's Deathless, so things are gonna get out of control. So I'm on part 3 of that one. And I think that one's gonna go pretty far. That one's gonna do at least 5 parts, if not more. These are turning into like short stories. These are not even like little 2,000 word stories, like 10,000 words, 12,000 words. It's getting out of control. But they're a lot of fun. So I write them because it's so fast to crank them out. So if you're not on Patreon, that's a long-winded way of saying if you're not on Patreon, get on Patreon, because you're going to get exclusive stories that are only available to the patrons. And you're going to hear about them on the Kaffeeklatsch. You might hear about them other places, but you're not going to, what are they talking about? The only way to find out what we're talking about is to get on our Patreon, and you'll get the stories, and you'll be enjoying them with everyone else. Yes, Kathy, a lot of creative redecorating, because Nan is volatile at best. So it's going to be interesting, because the characters, the representatives for each faction are going to do their best to try Nan and Deathless again. So again, like in the previous story in Bloodlust, excuse me, Simon's going to have to be kind of the smart one. And this is basically training for him as Deathless. But this is really kind of what we're going to push Deathless to his limits and see what we can do, what's possible, what's not possible. How well does his battle form work in the Deathless state? Does the mask allow for something else? And do his weapons work differently? All that stuff is going to get tested, because the stories are really, really tight, but we want to kind of explore what is possible and what is not possible for Deathless in the stories. So yeah, it's a good thing, and there's some deep conversations there in the beginning, but I'm not gonna spoil it. Just got to go into Patreon and find out. But that's my plug for Patreon. In terms of Instagram, you get those of you that are on Instagram. I started. It's amazing. I pull up one post, and which is a big deal. But I'll put up one post. I'll put another one over the weekend. These are just kind of little excerpts from the story. Sometimes it's comments, quotes, images, covers, things like that, just to create a presence, to keep our presence on Instagram going. So that's what's going on Instagram. So you can find us on Instagram at In Peaches, and you can find us on Patreon. You know how to find us on Patreon. This is the link for Patreon, and this is the link for, thank you, Chris, our resident technomancer. Let me see if I can show this. There it goes. This is our Instagram, so go find us on Instagram and join and increase our presence there. It'd be awesome. I'm gonna try and do even more stuff over the weekend, which is great. Let's see what else we got. Zazzle, our lead designer, was working on some stuff yesterday. It looked really good. I don't know if it's for Zazzle or not, but there was some really nice items that I was previewed, and you don't have to go to Zazzle. I don't know if they're Zazzle items or if they're book, like if you get certain books and then they get included, but some amazing stuff that's being created. I got behind the scenes looks. So go to Zazzle, get your swag. This is Zazzle swag. And there's so many things that I can even, that was another thing that would take another episode, an entire episode to go through the Zazzle swag. So here's our link for Zazzle. Go there and go get some stuff. We're also on, our Technomancer's on the ball. We're on Bebo, which we call Binge Books. So you guys know how Swaggle. Maybe we could change Zazzle to Swazzle. That'd be awesome. So on Binge Books is like just like a place to put our books up, get some social proof. You can follow us there. And it's a kind of a newer site, but you can go there. It's just bingebooks.com and look me up. Look up Orlando A. Sanchez. And just give some social proof. Hey, I read this book. It was good. I didn't read that book, or whatever the case would be, so forth and so on. And it's basically another place for people to find the stories and the books. The website, as always, is Orlando A. Sanchez. I'm going through these quick because we do have a little bit. We don't have as many questions as the last episode. We have a few I want to get to. And I kind of want to just hang out and talk to you guys. And it's almost already 12. I don't know where this time goes. Really need to have a conversation with Sid about this. This is the website. Go there, visit, check it out, browse. It's really well done. And this is a production of Dolly and our web designer. So go check it out. Stress test, in case of something may not work, and we need to know. It'd be great. And just go see stuff that's there. It'd be awesome. There are signed books. Yeah, there are signed books available online for Chaos Rising back. From Chaos Rising all the way back, there are signed books available. So please, if you want to sign book, I've been signing books left and right for Chaos Rising. I use my signature purple Sharpie. And let's see what else I was gonna say. Sign books, and something was on my mind. I just oh my god, I just lost it. Oh my god. So there's signed copies, and so go get some signed copies. I'm sure to come back to me. It's one of those things like when you're thinking about something and something else comes in, and then it just kind of bumps everything else. So it'll come back to me as I'm talking about something else, which is the usual. All right. Chaos Rising is what I'm in the middle of. Hey, Dan, Mr. Awesome, you are here. Welcome. Chaos Rising is where I'm at right now. I'm sorry. Dark. Oh, okay. Yeah, this is what I want to do. Chaos Rising is what we just finished, and Dark Flame is where we're going. And Dark Flame is, wow. Okay, it's been like 3 chapters just to see. And I apologize for those of you who are reading it on Patreon. It's been like 3 chapters of cliffhangers just to go look and see what Monty looks like, because it's kind of like a build-up. And in those chapters, Simon is having a conversation with TK, who hasn't really been in the stories lately, but she's in this story heavily. This and the next story heavily. At some point, she's gonna have to go over to the Morgan's man, because she worked with the Morgan at some point. But some really, really, I know it does, Chris. It really does. So at this point, Simon is having a deep conversation with TK about Monty and what darkness is, and it'll develop later on in the story as how is it relevant to what's happening to Monty. Can't believe we're 31 books in. It's incredible how these stories just keep building upon each other. Yeah, those hill huggers are rough. I do apologize for the hill huggers. The next, after this little trilogy of Dark Flame, Dark Mage, and Absolution, you guys are I'm gonna say it here. You guys are gonna get the origin story of how Simon met Michigo and their relationship and everything that's happening. And that's going to be, let me see, Paper Dragons and Phantom Pain. So it's like a duology within the whole series. So those two books work together, and Paper Dragons is really what starts the story of how they met, and actually why she chose him to give him Ebon Soul. And it's deep. And then after that, let me see. Let me look across at the list here. Oh, Echo of Silence. Ooh, Echo of Silence. So Echo of Silence is it's a Dex centered story. Dex and a little bit of Nana, but it's a Dex centered story. He has some secrets that he's been keeping that are going to be revealed in Echo of Silence that impact everything, and he has to make a choice as to, does he divulge the secret and endanger everyone, or does he keep the secret and protect people but endanger other people? And it's going to be like, yikes. And then after Echo of Silence is, excuse me, I get excited, is Necrosis. And Necrosis deals with Venice Fontaine and the consequences of her helping Monty and Simon get the White Heart, and they come after her. And the only place she can go to is Monty and Simon, and it's all about that. So that's Necrosis. And so that develops more Simon's ability as with his blade that's a necrotic blade, and the fact that he can talk to dead people. So it's gonna be crazy, and it's gonna be crazy for the next like 5 books. And Necrosis feeds into that book, leads into, it's gonna be almost like another duology. The next book after Necrosis is called A Lesson from the Dead, and that's gonna be wow. Yeah, that one I can't really go into because it's a deep one. And then after that, it's Dark Immortal, and that title kind of speaks for itself because it's a Simon-centered story, a Deathless-centered story. So that's going to be a lot of fun. So, and there's more, but I don't want to give too much away because then it gets crazy. So that's what's happening. That's what's coming up, and that's what I'm kind of dealing with, and I got to make sure that all these threads don't get too tangled, but that they all kind of lead into each other. And so it's a lot of carefully pulling on one thread without pulling on the other, and making sure that they all work together. And it's a lot of that. And we're 31 books in, so do not ask me what have we been doing for 31 books, but we're 31 books in. And behind all of it, I don't know if I could say this, but behind all of it, Chaos is plotting. Chaos the God is plotting. So it's building up to like the Avengers type Infinity type feeling of like one really big bad guy coming after them. Yeah, it's getting to that point. So we'll see. It is getting really exciting. So, and then we have other stories. Currently I'm working on the sci-fi story, because a sci-fi story is a different type of story. And yes, Heather, there's a difference between dark and darkness. Seeds germinate in the dark. Yeah, it's really, that gets explored in Dark Flame a lot, and even to the point where she brings up the yin yang symbol, where the yin yang symbol has the white teardrop with the black dot, and the black teardrop with the white dot, things like that. So even to that extent, and that gets explored and developed, and it gets explained a bit more, and how I don't know if I can do this without spoiling, but how certain people have a propensity for darkness and things like that. And it gets really, it gets in there. It dives deep, and TK can speak to it because even though she's not dark per se, she's what did Simon call her? The comment was, she asked him, "Do you think I'm dark?" And he pauses because he knows if he says the wrong thing, there could be a problem. He says, "I don't think you're dark. I think you're kind of like light dark, or like dark adjacent." And she just looks at him like, dark adjacent? But she is kind of dark adjacent, and so she's familiar with it, and it goes into it. Yeah, and Chris, like you said, without darkness there can be no light, and that's why that symbol, the yin yang symbol, which symbolizes cosmic balance, the white teardrop has that little black dot because the seed of darkness is in that light. And the black teardrop has the white dot because the seed of light is within the darkness, and it's in there. The new bow mages. There, that I thought that was a really that's a typical Simonism, right? I did wonder if the Nuba mages are different dark mages to the yes, they are different, and they're older and they're stronger. And when Monty, I can't spoil it, Dan, but when they encounter them, it's a different kind of sect. It's a different kind of group that's more dangerous than any of the other dark mage groups that might be out there. And their leader, which I won't say here, but you'll see later on in the story, their leader is a definite threat to Monty in this current state with the white heart and the power that he's wielding. So without saying too much, yeah, that's a real threat for them and what they have to do and the whole purpose of the dark flame, right? Yeah, some of the brightest have been through the black. Yeah, exactly. And it's the way it is. That's, the darkness and the light, they have seeds of each other in them, and it really just you realize it when you're going through it. That's what makes it so hard sometimes, and then that's what makes you grow. But that's what it is. That's why it's a cosmic balance. Yeah. But I'll try not to spoil it. All right. What else was I saying? Don't forget that we promote our indie author. So if you have, oh yeah, I was reading. Okay, here it is. Yes, see, it came back. I've been reading because of the sci-fi story. I've been trying to read sci-fi stories that kind of fit or kind of similar to the story that I'm writing. Not exactly, because I don't like to read exact replicas or copies of the stories that I'm reading, because it kind of messes with my writing. But I've been reading this story, which is, it's kind of really pulpy, so it's really fun. The short stories, and it's called The Dumb. I have to find it. The author Skylar Ramirez. I'll put it up in the MoB, and he writes that the main character is like an idiot. He just messes up everything. And what I like about the story, the writing could be tighter, but what I like about the story is that they're fast paced. He has tight writing in the sense of it's a very delineated story. Like there's a beginning, middle, end, and there's a story, and and things like that. So, but Skylar Ramirez it's like 10 books in the series. I think there's 9, and the 10th one's coming out soon. And they're quick reads. You can read them in like an hour or two. That's just short, and they're a lot of fun. So I've been reading stuff like that just because I want to see how that method of writing is done with those kind of short stories, and how it's created tightly so that you can bring that into an element, because I want to do that into the Antares Gray series with Stiletto. So Stiletto Dreams, which is the next sci-fi story, I want to kind of keep that where there's like one main story and maybe one sub story, and just go from there and kind of make it short, like 30K max, and just make it a series that would be a lot of fun to read. What is my number one hack for staying on track and not burning out at the pace your writing is moving? I never considered my pace to be so fast. People tell me I write fast. When I'm writing, I don't think I'm writing fast, but then I'm like putting out books constantly. So I don't know. It's maybe I have a little secret from Sid that I can step out of time into these stories and then come back. But I think and I'm gonna answer because I don't want to give like a non-answer. That sounds like a cop-out. But I think the criteria that you need the most in terms of writing and staying on track and not burning out, one is you have to have things that you're doing that's not writing. One, so whatever it is you want to do that's not writing is good, because it gives your brain time to rest, which is important. And I have daily quotas, and once I hit the daily quota, I'm done. I don't try to get past the daily quota because I know I have to write again the next day or the next time I'm going to write. So I try to hit my daily quotas. And for me, I use a program called Pacemaker, and Pacemaker is really good for this. Pacemaker.com, there's a free version and there's a premium version. I use the premium version just because it gives me more tools to work with. But it's like Chris says, time seems suspended when you're writing. If you're aware of like the flow or fugue states or things like that, you can get into the writing. time seems to expand. So it just takes longer to get. It's stretched out as you're writing. And so that's, I guess that would be my number one hack, would be to create a word quota and hit that, even if it's like 500 words a day, 1,000 words a day, 2,000 words, whatever you're comfortable doing, and that you have the time for it, because it does have to work within your parameters of time, right? And just stick to that quota. It doesn't have to be a daily quota. There, I know some writers, James Bell does a weekly quota. He says, I'm going to write X amount of words this week. So that way, if there's one day where he can't write the quota, write words, he stretches it out over the days that are remaining in the week. And sometimes that's really easier for an author. Instead of saying, I got to hit this many words today, it's, I got to hit X amount of words this week. And then you have a little bit more flexibility, where you could have a lighter day and then you can have a really word heavy day, and it balances out. I like doing it daily, but I have done it where it's like I'll do research on one day, so I didn't get to write too much, but I wrote a few notes, and then I'll just add it to the next few days. I'll add more words. Marie asks, do you also use a daily quota or get only a set quantity? Yes, Peaches has to have a daily quota, because if not, he would eat Simon out of house and home. Even though a lot of his meat gets created, he would still be eaten out of house and home if he could eat whatever he wanted to eat. Definitely a daily quota, and definitely going to the place for sure. But I hope that answers your question, Kathy, about the number one hack for staying on track. The not burning out is basically you have to step away from the story. Like a lot of my friends, a lot of people, like when I finish up a story and they say, okay, so you're gonna take a break, and I say, yeah, I take 1, 2, maybe 3 days. I'll do like 3 days off between books. But even within those, when you're an author and you're a writer and you're involved in these projects, even those days that are off, that I'm taking those days off, your brain is an amazing thing. My brain is working on the next story. Even as I'm finishing the current story, I'm already immersed. Part of my brain is already immersed in what comes next. That's how you get the first chapter of the next story at the end of the book, because I've already kind of figured out where the story is going to go. And so I'll finish the story, I'll write it up, and then I'll start the next, like Dark Flame. I wrote the first chapter of Dark Flame in Chaos Rising, and the only way I can do that is because my brain I already said, okay, we got to get the next book going, so let's go. So I hope that helps. If you train yourself, you'll always be thinking of the story, but you have to be careful not to only think about the story, because that's how you burn out. You got to think about the story, put it in the bag for a little while, or put it in the basement of your brain and say, okay, I need you to think about Dark Flame, what's next? And then leave it alone for a day or two. And you'll be surprised when you get started to write the next story, or to write your story, you'll have ideas and plot devices and things that are coming up, and everything starts happening because you've percolated, you've let it simmer. That's the key. Is sometimes you have to let a story simmer. Sometimes I'm in the middle of a story and it's not that I'm not stuck, but I'm like, this isn't going the way I need it to go. And I'll let it simmer for a day or two and say, okay, just let me go start something else. That's when I'll have the sci-fi story, and I'll focus more on that one. And then as I'm doing that, the other story starts to unravel and work itself out. I've found that the best way to get really, really good ideas, and this is me, this is not the only way, but this is be in the middle of a story. Be writing, be busy doing something, and you'll get your best ideas. And the key there is to write it down. As soon as you get that idea, write it down. And then you can revisit, go back and see if it has legs, if it's something that's worth pursuing. But it's really important it's kind of like be busy and you get ideas. But if you're just waiting for the ideas to come and you're just hoping one day an idea will come, chances are it doesn't come. It's when you're in the middle of something that it's because you kind of like your brain is working and it's generating ideas and it's generating stories, that more stories will come to you. And what you have to do really is just kind of capture them, write them down, and then go back and revisit each idea and see if I can put that in this story, or I can put that in that story, or this one can work. This is a completely different story, and things like that. Yeah, especially when the ending, Kathy's saying she very much appreciates those next chapter items help hold us over to the next fix. And it's true. I mean, I used to I've just recently gone back to putting the first chapter of the next book in the back of the book, because prior to that, Amazon was a little hinky about adding first chapters, because they thought some authors, unscrupulous authors, were padding books. And so Amazon did a whole blanket thing where you can't add anything in the back or so forth and so on. But they've relaxed that a lot. And so you can, in the beginning, I used to do that all the time. I used to write the current book and then put the first chapter of the next book. But especially when the book ends like Chaos Rising, I have to put the next chapter in, because people are already kind of bent that it's a hill hugger. And if I don't put the next chapter in, it doesn't give a sense of closure. And as when you're writing a story, closure is really important, because we all think in arcs. And so when you have a hill hugger, you're 3/4 of the way up across the arc, but there's nothing at the end, and you get upset. So by putting the first chapter of the next book in, you close that arc, and so Chaos Rising is done, and now we can anticipate Dark Flame. It's kind of like what who did this? Marvel did with the movies, how they started adding trailers at the end of movies, even though it was for another movie. They revolutionized how people would go watch movies, because people used to go to the movie and they would see the credits and they'd leave. But what Marvel did, it completely changed that, right? The company, they said, no, at the end of the trailer, we're going to keep them there till all the credits. So at the end of the credits or in the middle of the credits, we're going to add a trailer for the next movie or for another movie. And all of a sudden, people started sitting through credits because they knew there was a trailer at the end. And so that's basically all adding new chapters. Is basically the trailer for the next book. And we've been doing that for as long as books have been around. When you have books that are in the series, authors have been doing that, adding the next book, adding a excerpt or a snippet of the next book at the end of the book as a way to entice readers to continue a series. So that's not new. And as Mickey Spillane, if you don't know who he is, you should look him up. He has great advice and wisdom on this. He says the first chapter sells the current book and the last chapter sells the next book. So if you're an author or an aspiring author, although I don't like the aspiring title, get into the habit of adding something from the next book in your current book. So your readers will be like, okay, can't wait for the next book. And that's how you do it. You just add something interesting or something that comes from the next story into your book, you know? Yeah, I mean, I remember the first, I don't know what movie it was, probably Iron Man, because that's when it really started, where you started waiting through credits. I was getting ready to get up and go, and my kids were like, no, we gotta stay, because there's something in the credits. And like, credits are just all, I mean, I appreciate it. It's all the people who made the movie, but what else is gonna be? It's just credits. You're gonna be reading names for the next 20 minutes. And no, there's gonna be something in the credits. So I sat through it, and yeah, there was like the next Iron Man or something related to Marvel Universe, you know? Yeah, so yeah. And like Kathy's saying, you dumping those random ideas in a bin for future work for years, and you can hold on to them. I have notebooks full of ideas, and you get an idea and you write it down, and you don't know if you're going to use it right now, but you know you're going to use it somewhere. So hold on to it, because before you know, you say, oh, that idea that I had works perfectly here. And then you go and you pull it up and you use it. And that's how it works. And sometimes you may not use an idea for years, and then all of a sudden it's a perfect instance in using a specific idea for a specific story. That's just the way it is. And your brain is just a very interesting, complex device organ that just can it can take ideas that don't seem related and create connections between them, where you can then all of a sudden make a cohesive story out of these different ideas. And that's what storytelling is, right? It's just taking ideas and characters and settings and conflicts and kind of jumbling them all together and making a story. And your brain is very good at that, because we're all storytellers from very young ages. We're all very good at telling stories. And that's how it is. We just get to keep practicing that as we get older, and if we're writing. So yeah, so that's basically the whole concept of using, like Chris was saying, using anticipation to create a certain expectation, and also keeping your readers happy as you're writing a series, because this is really particular to series where you have to kind of, like, I don't know how we've managed to get to 31, but because that's a lot of books to keep stories going. But you have to have really good characters, really interesting characters, really deep characters, and be able to kind of create a through line through all the stories. One, that's important, because you just can't have, and you can make standalone stories, but there should be a through line that goes through all the stories, and then create situations around that through line that keeps people engaged. That's really important. You should give a TED talk on that. Tall tales too. Yeah, that's really important. Tall tales are kind of like what we grew up with, and it nurtures our storytelling. I guess our storytelling gene, for lack of a better word, our storytelling practice as young people, as children, and then those tall tales, you can build on them. There's stories that are still, in this last book, in the last Patreon story, I mentioned One Eye, which is Odin, and that goes back. I mean, how long have people been talking about Odin and Valkyries? You don't really reinvent the mythos of certain things. What you do is you add your particular, your individual twist to it, and then it becomes unique to you and to your storytelling. But vampires have been around forever. Monsters have been around forever. Knights and heroes have been around forever. Magic has been around forever. As long as people have been around, these elements have been around. It's what you do with those things, and how you give it your personal touch that makes the story interesting. But if you think about it, and this advice I heard a long time ago, and it's in both, in music and in writing. You have 26 characters in writing, and look at all the stories that have been created with those 26 characters. And same thing with music. You have a very limited amount of notes, 8 if I'm not mistaken, right? And look at all the music that's been created with those limited amount of notes. What changes, it's not the notes and it's not the letters of the alphabet. It's how an author or a musician or composer takes those and makes it their own, and then creates something different and new. So you're not really reinventing anything. What you're going to do is take what's been invented and then put your personal twist on it and make it amazing, which is what happens when you see these books that are coming out. Last year, if I'm not mistaken, there were over 1 million books released on Amazon in a year. That's a lot of books. And think about it. I mean, that's a lot of books for 1 year. And so you just have to, you don't have to say, you don't despair at that. You just say, okay, I'm going to add my book to that too. Because all those authors, all those creators are doing something unique to them, right? So you just do something unique to you, and then you release it to the world. It's key to put it out there in the world. That's really the hard part for a lot of authors, especially in the beginning. Wow, that's so hard. I have the Word Players Manifesto, and one of the things that it says is, besides don't just start stories, finish them, right? The other one is set your stories free, because sometimes we have all these stories and no one has ever heard them, seen them, read them. Set your stories free, send them into the world. It doesn't say set your stories free, make them perfect, and then send them into the world, because that doesn't exist. You can't make them perfect. Every story that I've released, if I go back to read it now, as I am now, as I've matured and grown as an author, I can go back and say, okay, I could change this, I could add this, I could revise this part. Every story, because no story is perfect. So you have to be okay with good as opposed to great. Because if you're waiting for great, yeah, that's going to be hard, because you're waiting for perfect. That's never going to happen. So get your story as good as possible and get it out there, and learn from what build upon what you're learning, what you're writing, and then make the next story a little bit better, and make the next story a little bit better. Even now, if I read Tomb Yards and Butterflies, and then I go and the things that I'm writing now, I can change Tomb Yards and Butterflies. I mean, it's fun. I read a chapter of Tomb Yards, I was like, oh my God, I was having so much fun reading it, but then I could change this, I could add this, I could write this a little tighter. This part feels clunky. I could do that with all the books, but I don't. One, because it'd be so much work first, but two, because you get to see the growth process when you do that. So here we are at book 31. The author that I am today is very different from the author when I wrote Tomb Yards, but I also attribute that the author that I am today is due to who I was when I wrote Tomb Yards and Butterflies, if that makes sense. And speaking of Tomb Yards and Butterflies, is another thing that was in the back of my mind that I wanted to. It's getting a new cover, so I can't wait to see. So DDD offered to redo the first cover of the series. So I'm going to look forward to seeing what they do, because some of the covers that they've done for Montague and Strong have been incredible. It's like, wow. I'm just sitting there and like Necrosis is one. There's so many covers that are just amazing. And we'll get to the cover of this one because Katie Cunningham in the questions, she makes reference to this cover for this Kaffeeklatsch, which is actually the cover of Dark Mage. But we'll get to that in a moment. Chris says, I'm glad it's not just me about reading first indie. Yeah. So when I read the one book that's really the stories that are really that hit home for me with that was Spiritual Warriors, because those were really the first books that I put out there. And I went back and read them. When I redid the covers, I had the option of redoing the books, and I was like, do I want to redo these books? Because it's 5 books, and these are not small books. They're fairly, they're fairly extensive, like 70K, 65K, 80K. But I said, no, I'm just gonna leave them the way they are. I'm gonna redo the covers, which I redid because the covers were, they needed to kind of be updated. But I saw so many things I could have fixed. I could have added. I could have reduced the cast. I could have changed the fighting. So many things. I said, no, I'm just gonna leave that alone, because for me, that is a way to see where I came from. I can see where, how I progressed from Spiritual Warriors to now. And so I didn't change it as much as I wanted to, but I said, no, let me just leave it alone, Paige says, that screen behind you is, oh yeah. It just happened. This is the first time you get to see the screen. This is the debut of the screen. No, it's okay. It's okay. Because when it takes a while for these things to kind of seep in, but the screen, you guys aren't seeing the full screen because it's interrupted by my chair, by me, by stuff. It's amazing looking, the screen. But I wanted also a screen to use for the Warriors Pen, and that's tomorrow. The Warriors Pen is on Saturdays. It's the Saturday after the Kaffeeklatsch. And in case you don't know what the Warriors Pen is, it's it's much shorter than this. It's only about 12 minutes. Excuse me. And it's basically blending warrior philosophy with writing discipline, and kind of trying to help authors, but just trying to be helping people to have more discipline in their lives, more creatives. It's really for creatives, and be more creative and put that creativity to work, to action. So using warrior discipline, writing, warrior philosophy, writing discipline to kind of use your creativity. And it doesn't matter what kind of creativity you have or explore, that it can get out there into the world. Yeah. So thanks, Paige. Yeah, it's really nice. The screen is amazing. Marie says, perfect for the audience. Is that a thing? Nah, we the reader laugh, cry, get angry while reading, and then go, what was he thinking writing that? Or when is he, or Don, when is he going to explain this or that? Yeah, that's really true. And like Kathy says, perfection is the best friend of procrastination. Yeah, because procrastination is just another form of perfectionism, because you can't send it out until it's perfect. There's no way I can get this out there. It's not perfect yet. And that's just a disguise for procrastination. And, if you fall into that cycle of, I can't let this out until it's absolutely perfect, you're never going to release anything, because you're not going to make perfect. You're going to make really good. And on occasions, great, but you're not going to get to perfection. And so we have to kind of switch our minds away from it has to be perfect to it has to be really good. It has to be the best that I can do. And if you get to that, then you'll be able to release. And again, that's part of the other hack. Kathy, it was asked that what's the one hack? That's a real hack, that you can accept that your book is your story, your creativity, your painting, your sculpture, whatever art form, whatever creativity you express, that it's good, and on occasion it will be great, but it will never be perfect. Even Michelangelo, I think when he was asked about the Sistine Chapel, the ceiling, says there were areas that he could fix. The Sistine Chapel areas, and I'm sure him, Da Vinci, all these fantastic artists during the Renaissance and beyond, I'm sure when they finish their work, they say, "Oh, you know what? I can touch up that little area there, or that sculpture. Man, if I could just remove that little piece." But they, at some point, you just got to let it go, and you got to set it out into the world. Now, I'm not writing the Sistine Chapel, but I can get behind the concept of it's not perfect, but it's good, and on occasion, it's great, awesome, and that's good enough. Get it out there. Share it with people. I have so many texts of people who are reading the stories, love the stories, and they tell me how it's impacted them. But if I don't release these stories into the world, it won't touch anyone else. And you always have to remember that when you're writing, when you're painting, when you're doing whatever it is that you do creativity in a creative way, that you have to release it into the world. You have to set it free so that your stories, your art, your expression of creativity can touch other people, because you don't know what you do, how it can touch someone else to be creative as well, because we're all creative, Yeah, he said it was perfect the way it was. I think it was when there's a pope who was harassing him. I don't remember the pope. And I'm pretty sure this is like, anecdotal but not real. Probably somebody, doctored the comment. But imagine if he could say, okay, I want to fix this, or you should fix that. And it's like, no, I'm not gonna touch anything. No one really feels that way. Although, if you're Michelangelo, I can see you saying no. I mean, what would you fix on David, that sculpture? There's really nothing to fix on that. At least from me seeing that. But maybe Michelangelo could see that and go, yeah, could have removed this part, or I could have added more. Well, you really can't add when you're sculpting, right? Because you're removing. So, and there is a famous quote. He says, well, I just saw everything that wasn't David and removed it. But it's like Chris saying, we create for other people, right? Yeah, God knots. If you've heard of these, I was like, there are knots that you can't undo. If I'm not mistaken, these like perfect. These are knots that are just impossible to undo, and it's because perfectionism does that to people. It makes it very hard to progress. And let's say perfectionism, like you said, perfectionism and procrastination are like this. They're tight. They're best buds, because one feeds off the other. I gotta get it perfect, so I can't send it out yet. Or I'm not going to send it out until it's perfect, or this is not perfect, and things like that, and it messes you up. God knots. Heather would need to explain what God knots are, Marie. Okay. Is it time to get to the questions? I think it's time to get to the questions. Let me get to the questions. We have a few. All right. Well, Heather, if you want to explain God knots, please do. I'm going to start addressing the questions because we don't have that much time left, because the time just decides to just speed up while we're doing this. Yeah, it's really good today, Dan. I mean, it's solid. Every time we do this, it's solid. I don't want to not say that, but today is extra solid. So, okay, Audrey sent in her questions, even though unfortunately she is sick today, but she said, I have to keep my streak going. So Audrey gave us her questions. All right. Her first question, and I want to say thank you to all of you who keep bringing questions. Feel free to ask any question regarding, what we're discussing, the books, the stories, the characters. I'll try to answer them all, as long as they don't really spoil the current story. Okay. Her first question is, what myth or legend did you grow up believing? Wow. There are so many, because when you learn myths and legends as a child, you start picking them apart, and you start kind of applying them to situations in your life. So there's no one myth or legend. There were quite a few that I grew up believing, and then as I got older, of course, I didn't believe them as much. But there are elements of the myths and legends that are always fun to go back to and to examine and to kind of deconstruct. That's always good. So I can't say I have any particular one. There were many myths and legends because I grew up reading Aesop's fables, the Brothers Grimm. I mean, I had these books at home, and I would read them. So there were a lot of them. I actually there was an old encyclopedia called the Veritas, which was a Harvard encyclopedia, and I had my dad had gotten the complete encyclopedia, and two of those books were Aesop's Fables and Grimm's Fairy Tales, Brothers Grimm. So I read a lot growing up. So I'm sorry I can't answer that for you, Audrey, definitively. In terms of the next question, what actor do you picture playing Simon and Monty? Well, we've gone over this. I always say Ryan Reynolds would make a perfect Simon still, and Benedict Cumberbatch would definitely be a good Monty still, or Tom Hiddleston, but I definitely lean more towards Benedict, but definitely those two. Next question, which of your characters do you relate to the most? Well, we've discussed this too, but it's still a question that's worth it's a question worth going over and reviewing every so often. But as I'm writing, like when I wrote Bloodlust, it's still Gray. Gray is the character that I relate to the most. As much as I love writing the other characters, Gray by far is the one that I relate. It's funny because he's the one that I relate to the most, and he's the one series that has some of the fewest books out because I keep putting him in other stories. But this year I got to do the next Night Warden book. But he's the character that I relate to the most for sure. Okay. And then Audrey tells us she can't make it because she's sick. So feel better, Audrey. I hope when you watch this, feel better, Audrey. We all wish you feel better. Okay, Katie Cunningham, I don't think she's here today, but she left her question, is when will Dark Flame be published? Next month. Coming out next month. It'll be finished and out next month, which is May. Actually this month because we're in May. This is May 1st. So this month. Sorry. She goes on to state, Katie, this is her next statement. The artwork for this Kaffeeklatsch is creepy as hell. Just say, I want to say creepy as hell. Ominous, maybe. If you look at Monty closely in this is that's the cover for another book, for the book that's coming. If you look at Monty's eyes in the artwork, it's ominous for sure. All right, next question. But yes, Katie, thank you for pointing out that the artwork is definitely eye-catching for sure. All right, Chris Mendoza asks, do you have a Zen garden space you can go to outside of home? I have a park that I can go to. It's called Traverse Park. It's not too far. It's about a 15-minute walk from where I'm at. And the park was completely redone. But I remember when it was the way it was prior to this redoing. So I can kind of juxtapose the old park over the new park. And it's very Zen because I can see the changes and how people react and work with the new park. But I can also see the memories of the old park that is still there. And so it's this kind of weird blending of the old and the new. And it's a great place. I take Pepper there almost every day, at least once. And we kind of sit there for about 10, 15 minutes and then come back home. Let's see. Next question from Chris. In Mercenary Blues, which is the first book in the Antares Grey series, can Bella as a sentient intelligence work magic in space, or is magic limited only to mages? It's limited only to mages. Until further notice. I don't think Bella will be able. Bella is a sentient intelligence, like an AI, but beyond AI presence on the ship. But I don't think Bella will be able to work magic in space. So, but feel free to run with that idea because, I'm limited only to the mages of the Magi because there's more than one. And then, but you're free to go for it. I think that's a great idea, having a ship that can work magic. I recently saw a review of Farscape. I think it was Farscape, where the ship was sentient. Moya was sentient too. So yeah, so go for it. I haven't explored that idea, but I think it's a really interesting idea that sentient being that runs a ship can work magic as well. And then you have to go into, is magic just a product of will and the manipulation of energy that you do through willpower alone, or does it require a certain physicality? Like, it explores. You can just go far with that. That's a really deep rabbit hole to explore. So it's a great idea. Go for it. I think you should go for it. I'm keeping it to mages, but you should definitely go for it. All right. Let's see. Let me go back here. Oh, Heather explains what a god knot is. A flaw in the fabric is not to offend deity, and a reminder that nothing's perfect. in Japanese culture, I believe that's called wabi sabi, where it's like there's the imperfection in everything is what brings the perfection, if I'm not mistaken. But yeah, I believe it's wabi sabi. I'll look it up, but I think that's the concept also. Kathy says, love the new books. Happy Death Day. Yes, me too. Dan is saying we're 1 week closer. Every week is 1 week closer. The man approves. Dan is waiting for Silk, the man. So, and Silk will appear. He is getting closer. He is getting closer. Yeah. So yeah, Anne McCaffrey, for those of you who do not know, when Dragon Riders of Pern was one of her really, really well-known stories. I believe. Pretty sure she was Dragon Riders of Pern, unless I'm confusing her with Marion Zimmer Bradley. But I'm pretty sure that was McCaffrey. Yeah, the ship who sang. It's an old concept, and the whole concept of having sentient ships has been around for a long, long time. So I say go for it, Chris, and run with the sentient, intelligent ship that can work magic in space. Go for it. Anne McCaffrey was one of my earliest reads when I was really, really young, as was Marion Zimmer Bradley, both. But if I'm not mistaken, Anne McCaffrey, it was so long ago, but Anne McCaffrey was the Dragon Riders of Pern. So yeah, go for it. I say go for it. Chris, run with that. Run with it. There you go. Thank you, Paige, for confirming. Yes, that my memory has not become complete Swiss cheese yet. Awesome. So yeah, so Warriors Pen tomorrow, because I wasn't going to do this because I had done the CWW at the Creative Warriors channel, but the Warriors Pen channel has a different kind of bent, and I scripted out a whole bunch of episodes, so it's been very seasonal. It's like season 1, episode 1, season 1, episode 2. So I have a lot of seasons and a lot of episodes, and so I was kind of hedging on like what exactly am I going to say that hasn't been said before, but it's like how we do the whole thing about writing. We each have a very unique perspective on what we're going through, and I felt that in the Warriors Pen, someone who may want to access a person who writes, which is me, can ask a question and I can answer them, because sometimes you don't have anyone to talk to that's doing what you want to do, and not everyone comes to the Kaffeeklatsch. So in the Warriors Pen, they can visit and leave a question, and I can answer it, and hopefully help someone kind of get through a situation where they can start releasing creativity into the world. Because the more creatives we have, the better it is for everyone. That's just my position for sure. But I think we need to have more and more creatives, more and more authors, more and more painters and sculptors and musicians and dancers. All of it is really important. And the good thing is that it's possible for all of us. We're all creators in our own way. So it doesn't just have to be writing. It could be painting. It could be crocheting. It could be designing. It could be how you position your furniture, how you arrange your home. There's so many different ways to express your creativity. It doesn't have to be any one particular way. And that's what's great about being creative. So that's why I have the Warriors Pen. For me, it's writing, which is why it's called the Warriors Pen. And it's also based on ancient warriors who used to also be incredibly intelligent and would write works. Like if you read Marcus Aurelius' Meditations, which is still being read today, 2,000 years later, he never wrote them with the intention of other people reading them. He wrote them for himself to remind himself of how to live and how to be and how to act, and this philosophy for life. But he was also the emperor of Rome in his time, so he was considered the most powerful man in history during that time. So it's an interesting dichotomy of being an incredible warrior and also being a creative individual. What's on my cup? This is the original. I don't know if I can see it. I have to get closer. That's the original Iron Man breaking out of chains. And I had this comic at some point. I don't know if I still have it somewhere in the trove of comics, but that's before he was red and yellow. He was gray and yellow, and that's the original suit of Iron Man. It's amazing. Art moves the world in positive. It really does. It really does. And yes, Marcus Aurelius is fantastic reading. In that same encyclopedia of Veritas that I had when I was a kid, there was Marcus Aurelius Meditations, and I didn't know what it was because I was too young to understand it. Dan says, fantastic hang as always, Ma. Orlando, thank you for bringing the awesomeness that keeps us all chomping at the bit. Have a great weekend. I will finally be watching the latest. Oh, I think you'll enjoy it. I like the dog in the latest Superman movie. He was fun. As far as Superman movies go, it was okay. I mean, it wasn't anything world shattering, but it was fun to watch, and it was fun to see a new iteration of Superman. Yeah. Yes, it's the classic Iron Man. And on the other side, there's actual text. It says, "I have to hold him off. I'll try to hold him off with my repulsor rays." So yeah, but yeah, this is gifted to me by my sister-in-law. Yeah, yes, Veritas is. I think it's also part of the Harvard motto, if I'm not mistaken. That's why it's called the Harvard Classics, and it's a big encyclopedia. I didn't know how big it was. I mean, when I was a kid, I realized we had a whole these bunch of big green books everywhere. I didn't realize how big it was until I got older and I researched it. And I don't know where those books are now. They didn't survive my childhood. All right, guys, we got 5 minutes. So if you have questions, we have time for questions. Bye, Marie. Take care. Dan, if you're leaving, take care. Have a great weekend. Those of you that need to go, please enjoy it the rest of your day today and your weekend this weekend for sure. Yeah, coffee, love and coffee to all for sure. That's like meat in life, love and coffee. I like that one, Marie. Love and coffee for all. That's a good one. Mag's books. I don't know what that means. Kathy, can you elaborate on Mag's books? Because it seems cryptic, at least a bit. Do you mean someone else? Is Mags short for something, or is it mean something else? I'm perturbed, as some would say. Oh, Rags. Um, Rags is not an individual character in that way, because Rags comes together joined with Cece, because she's her protector, her guardian. Yeah. So Rags can't have a book separate. Graphic novels. I wish I could see the whole thing about graphic novels. The key to graphic novels, aside from the writing, because the writing is really key, is that you have to have the right illustrators. The right illustrator makes or break a graphic novel. Take care, Laura. I don't know if I said take care, but take care, Laura. Have a great weekend. And we're almost done. So this is wrapping it up now. But yeah, graphic novels would be great to look into, but you need to have a good illustrator. Like if I could get Marvel illustrators, Marvel writers, yeah, that would be awesome. Someone like that at that caliber, someone who can, or DC, someone at that caliber. Yeah, want more? Will we see more of them? Oh, more of the Brew and Chew? Yes, there's another one that needs to come out. But I'm kind of clearing out. I'm kind of moving through the Monty and Strong library in terms of getting a certain amount of books out, and then I'm going to jump into all these little side books that need to get done for sure. Especially CC and Peanut. Yeah, CC and Peanut will definitely have their own story. They've had a few stories well, at least Peanut has had a few stories in the Patreon stories. There've been a few appearances of CC and Peanut, but they deserve their own full length, or at least a good short story with the Brew and Chew, because Peanut just entered the Brew and Chew. Hey, Jeanette, welcome. We're just about to wrap up, so you came just at the end, but you're here, and that's what matters. And you can always watch the recording. But yeah, CC. So in the Brew and Chew, Peanut has just joined. Peanut and Kai have just joined the Brew and Chew, and it's kind of closed now. And so, I mean, like, they're not going to be any more members of the Brew and Chew, because you've got Frank, you got CC, you got Rags, you got Peanut, you got Kai. That's a good amount of characters in there. And then now they can just have adventures all over the place and do all kinds of stuff that's really fun. And, they're overpowered in their own way. And so it's going to be a lot of fun. Oh, and Peaches. Peaches is part of the Brew and Chew. Without Simon, he's like the de facto leader of the Brew and Chew, but he's really like what he is in Monty and Strong. He's the heart of the group. And of course, Peaches is in love with Rags, and that's always ongoing. And He's Frank's good friend, and he's really good friends with Cece. So Peaches is connected to everyone in the Brew and Chew. And so that's why that kind of makes him the nexus, the heart of the group. And they're gonna go on adventures for sure. I just have to do the last Brew and Chew, last in the sense of the trilogy, and then I think I'm gonna do an actual full length book, like 50K of the Brew and Chew. Yeah. Oh yeah, they're growing in power in such a way, like Jeanette says, a nice powerful group preparing to scare Monty and Simon. They're growing in such a way that I think they need to go on a rescue mission to save Monty and Strong. I think they just, because they did that in the first one where they saved Simon, but I think they need to go on a much larger scale, like full blown, all 5 of them going out there to save Monty and Simon from something horrific. And all of a sudden you see all these little kids show up. These 2 girls show up with assorted sidekicks, and it's like, okay, what are you guys gonna do? And then they unleash havoc. So yeah, something like that. Heather says, I wonder what the conversation between Frank and the Morgan ended up being about. I can't tell you that. Not now, not yet. That'll be in the Night Warden story. That's in the Night Warden story. There's more coming out. I just have to write it. But the next story in the Night Warden story is focused on Coda. Most of it. Coda is going to be really central to the next Night Warden story because of what happened to her in the previous Night Warden story. So yeah, I know. I'm sorry, I have to tease you a little bit, but I can't divulge everything. Not everything. I have to leave it for the story. If I just say it, then it doesn't get written. CW, hey, how are you? Welcome. Is it possible to print a timeline to know where the Deathless stories are in the M&S? Oh, see, the Deathless stories are interstitial stories, so they don't really happen within the same timeline as M&S, because when he becomes deathless, he steps out of time, out of the normal flow of time. So it would require a Sid Rat level of explanation to kind of say, okay, these stories happen at this point, and that point. But because it's not within the normal flow of time, it's not going to be so cut and dry as that between this book and this book, this happened. And between this book and this book, that happened. It doesn't, it's almost like a parallel timeline, if that's understandable. So it's hard to narrow it down to this is when it happened, because it doesn't work that way. And if you look at the first assignment, the Morgan, or maybe the preview, the Morgan explains to him that you're operating outside of time while you're deathless. And so yes, Sid Rat is at it again with the Morgan's help. And the Morgan, if you study the Morgan, you realize that she's prescient, and she kind of, it's not a straight timeline by any sort of means, nothing at all. It can't be, because of the way Simon interacts with things and how they interact, and how the Morgan herself impacts time, along with, and this is kind of a spoiler, but along with what Kali does with Simon in terms of manipulating time. Because when he presses his mark and time slows down and things happen within that, this is just that on us, like with steroids. So when he puts on the mask, for him, time has compressed and it's slowed down, and almost to a crawl, so he can do what he needs to do within an allotted time. And so it doesn't fall seamlessly into between this book and that book. I'm sorry, it doesn't. It's a messy thing, but it's designed to be messy because it allows Deathless to do certain things. Yeah, time is a variable, and Simon is learning that a lot. Okay, wow. Yeah, okay. So now we're over time. Before we had extra time, and then I blinked, and now we're over time. So great. I mean, great comments. Thank you so much for that. That question, CW, is fantastic. We could always explore it more. Heather says, I wonder if there are knots that Sid can't undo because the timelines would not either recover or be too. Yeah, there are plenty of those. Right. That's why it's called an interstitial action. What Simon goes through as the Deathless is a very interstitial way of being, because it's between, I explained it in the story. It's the spot between 1 and 2. It's the and. So 1 and 2, where Simon is the and. If you want to think about it that way in terms of time. Thank you so much for the amazing show, guys. You guys are fantastic. Thank you for being here. The Warriors Pen doesn't have an audience. The Warriors Pen is just tomorrow is just me kind of sharing knowledge. And wow, it's early/late for you, Jeanette. Thank you for popping in and saying hello. I want you guys to have a great weekend. So my 3 Bs, as usual, be kind, because it doesn't really cost you anything to be kind. Be unstoppable, because the only person that can stop you is you. And be uncommon, because there's only one of you in the entire universe. Have a fantastic weekend. I'm going to put a less scary face up now. Fun today, guys. Let's see if this less scary face is up. There it goes. And let's close out with some amazing music. Where's my less scary face? How did I go back?